Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to Night Vision, or welcome to Night Vision if you haven't been here before. Happy to have everyone here. Before I bring on my guests, I just want to share a quick little story. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm the editor-in-chief of the newsletter for KGRA. And in last month's issue, I covered a story of an American hero who was killed in World War II near a small village in France. And he was killed on August 17th, 1944, and his name was Lieutenant Paul Swank. He single-handedly held off 2,000 German soldiers until the rest of the men, which were a ragtag little team of some Spanish explosive experts, just 3 or 4, a little ragtag bunch of American soldiers that dropped out of the sky earlier that day, and the French resistance fighters, the Maquis, and they rescued a truckload of hostages that the Germans had taken, and then they managed to hold off, with the help of Paul Swank, the Germans were trying to get down the road to the little village of Cuisa, where they had a big depository of munitions and food and other supplies to replenish the German army. Well, they didn't make it because of Paul Swank, and they ended up turning around, and they never, ever came back to that region again. So every August 17th, to this day, the villagers there celebrate Lieutenant Paul Swank. And, I left out the good part. He was killed there. They shipped his body back home to Missouri. But then among his papers, they found his wishes to be buried where he fell. So it was a big bunch of red tape involving the American embassy, the French embassy. But they finally returned his body back to the village of Alet-Laban, and he was entombed there and a monument erected there. And I have to tell you, I spend a lot of time in that area, and I've probably passed that monument at least 100 times, and noticing it, but not really noticing it. And then recently, I found out just what it really was, and it wasn't long before the anniversary coming up, and I wish so much that I could be there to put some flowers or lay a little American flag on his grave on that day. The villagers have a ceremony where they honor the soldiers of France and the Allied soldiers, and then they all walk to the tomb of Lieutenant Paul Swank, which is not a short walk either. So I got hold of an American friend of mine living nearby in Carcassonne and said, hey, you know this story? And I told him, and I said, how would you feel about hopping in the car and going over there and taking some photographs for me? And maybe you could pick up a flower or at least pay your respects on my behalf while you're there. That would make me feel so good. So he did exactly that. And so I have a follow-up story coming out in September newsletter. Now, the newsletter is free. All you have to do is go on gradb.com and sign up for it. And we have stories coming in there. Now I'm going to have to get hold of our guest tonight, and maybe he'll offer up some stories for the newsletter as well. But I tell you what, he's got a lot of stories that he's going to be covering. I'm excited to introduce a brand new show to KGRA and a brand new host. And we couldn't be more excited and pleased. So I'm going to bring him on right now. He is Pavel. Hey, Pavel.
Hey.
Psicoactivo. Bienvenidos.
How you doing?
Good.
How are you,
Really
Renee?
good. I'm good. And Paul's coming to us from south of the border, but he's hopefully going to make his way right up here with me in Los Angeles pretty soon one of these days, because I think there's a beautiful woman that's waiting for him up here. It's not me. God knows. It's his lovely friend is here. And so he's making his way our way as soon as he can arrange it. So we'll be happy to welcome him not only to KGRA, but to LA.
She was born in LA, but she lives near me.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
she lived in LA, and that's why you were moving here. You want to move here?
She was born in LA. Yes, that's potentially the plan.
Correcting the record. But Pavel has a great YouTube channel called Psicoactivo. You can see the name there on the screen, so you can get the spelling. And I think I'm pronouncing it right. I haven't been laughed at yet.
You are.
Pavel. Anyhow, but he covers all kinds of things from UFOs to paranormal to consciousness, and I would think many other things. I have, he's brand new to us, so I've just been getting acquainted with him and with the show, and I'm so excited. It looks so interesting. So can you tell us a little bit about, number one, how did you get into this weird world of the paranormal? What drew you in? Because you actually work a day job that includes the paranormal. Most of us have to work a regular day job, and then paranormal is our hobby and our wish, but you're actually doing it professionally. So what drew you in?
My mother started telling me to read a lot of weird books when I was younger. And when I was in my early teens, I had a weird experience with a Mexican shaman from the north of Mexico. And a lot of other kids had similar experiences on that day. And since then, I just started questioning everything and reading more books. And as I kept reading authors like Salvador Freixedo or Carlos Castaneda, or more authors, Carl Jung, stuff like that, I just developed a really keen and acute sense of wonder for everything. So since then, I've always been keen on looking at weird stories, and I've always been a sci-fi nerd too. So it always went hand in hand pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And, you were into the UFOs and the paranormal, and also into human consciousness. So I'm thinking you might have imagined or detected that there was a link there.
Yeah.
Among all these things, including our human consciousness.
It's all connected, really. But as I've gotten a little bit more savvy in this space over the last year or so, I've noticed that there's a group of people who are controlling this narrative of the UFOs that try to not talk about consciousness as much as other people that are not connected to this effort of government disclosure, And
right.
I realized that the reason they're doing this is my assessment, is not something that I think other people should believe, or if they want to, that's fine. But this is what I gathered. What I think is that, you know how they developed like Stargate and remote viewing and all this stuff that is not considered mainstream or real per se,
Right.
but they have spent millions of dollars in it. So what I've gathered is that they are keeping it from the rest of the people because we do have some potential to do things that are not considered real, but they are. And
Yeah.
I do consider that I am living proof of that because I've had some weird experiences. And that's why I think that consciousness is like at the very center of everything, really.
You were talking about when the shaman came and the other kids also had some strange experiences. Could you describe any of that? What kind of things occurred?
Yes. So back in the day, my mother was, she used to take a lot of different courses and psychology retreats and stuff like that. And she used to get us involved in it quite a bit. And one of these experiences she decided to have was going on a peyote trip with a native shaman from the north of the country. So she did. She went with a bunch of adults. And when she came back, she brought the shaman with her so we could all meet him. And it was a shaman from up in the border between Texas and Juarez. You know
Was
that
he
there's a major.
Aztec? Was he Aztec or?
No, he was what's it called? A Mayo. Mayo.
Oh, a Mayo.
Yeah, they're from the north of Mexico, and they're called Maracames. That's what they call them. And he is one of the few people from the Native Americans from there who has legal access to peyote plants. Because I don't know if you know this, but the peyote reservoir, it's protected by the government. And only people who are born there and who have Native American blood have access to those lands by law, both in Mexico and in the US. And when he brought this shaman, yeah.
I guess it's because it's considered a religious or cultural practice.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, that's cool.
And when he came to the house, there were a bunch of kids who I grew up with who were there at the time. And he came into the dining room and he started like chanting and doing like these healing ceremonies on different kids. And when it was my turn, he grabbed me by the face and told me to keep my mouth shut and just started chanting and just grabbed my face. And it felt really warm to the touch. And I just kept my mouth shut like this. And when he started chanting, I felt like a tooth broke out of my mouth. And I was like, that's weird. I think I broke a tooth. And then when I realized that I had something in my mouth, the shaman just took his hands out and he was like, spit it out. And I was like, how does he know that something happened? What the hell? So I spat it out and it was a little red rock, like yay big. That seemed like a kind of like one of those sandstones that you find at the sea by the beach. But it was like red, but like a dark red. It was really strange. And that took me down my first rabbit hole ever. Like, what is that? And that's when I started reading up on a lot of shamanistic traditions and stuff like that when I was in my early teens.
Did you keep it?
My mom kept it. I've asked her where she's keeping it. She's like, I don't know. It's somewhere in there. She has a lot of she's kind of a hoarder a little bit. So yeah, she told me she still has it though.
She knows it's somewhere. She knows she's got it.
Yeah.
That's wild. I tell you, I'm from Oklahoma, and until recently, I thought, my family was Native American, or, like almost a quarter Native American. It didn't come out on the DNA test, but now I'm hearing that sometimes it doesn't show up, and I'm going to look into more because I grew up, and my poor little mom, she refused to believe that. She goes, I know we're Indian. We're Indian. My mom used to do all kinds of things, with the, smudge cedar branches. Oh, we didn't call it smudging. It was smoking herself with cedar branches. She used to send me via FedEx cedar branches out here from Oklahoma so I could use them in my house. So funny. People say, what is that? I go, oh, it's just some cedar branches. Your mom's sending you sticks. But I have seen some amazing things sitting around the campfire with a medicine man, and there's no way I could explain it, but I've seen some pretty wild things, and one of them actually had to do with my little grandbaby who was very sick at the time and hadn't been able to eat for days. And I told the medicine man, and he took her picture and held it and did a prayer and a ceremony. And as soon as we left there, I called my daughter, and she said, she just came and said, Mama, want milk. And she hadn't eaten for days. So I said, that's two. But there were many other things on that same trip, just like that were unexplainable and and really interesting. And I was actually on that particular trip. Sorry about that. On that particular trip, I was working on a documentary on Bigfoot. It was for Discovery Channel, and it was called Bigfootville. It was on the air for about 15 years. It may still be floating around out there somewhere. But we went down to Oklahoma, around where I grew up, and investigated Bigfoot stories, and particularly the natives that lived, around there, and especially in the rural areas. They just said, "Oh yeah, we played with the little ones when we were kids," and the medicine man said, it's just another tribe. We don't bother them. They don't bother us. And they had special names. I think my favorite was Ihoza. And this was a Seminole medicine. And it means make you forget. He said, because you see them, but then you can't remember it. He said they sort of have a way of hypnotizing you so that you don't remember. And but yeah, the natives had some, a leg up on a lot of consciousness and paranormal. It's not paranormal, it's normal in Indian culture. So I totally get that whole tribal thing and shamanistic thing. And you have a shaman in your family, right?
Yes, it's actually two of them, and one of them is learning. My auntie, she started doing, she has a reservoir in Nayarit, which is near Puerto Vallarta. And they do peyote, ayahuasca, mushroom trips there for tourists. And they bring shamans from the country where the medicine is usually given to people. For example, if they do ayahuasca trips, they bring people from Brazil, from Peru, from different places in South America. The mushroom trips are mostly Mexican, native from Mexico. So those, they take care of them really well. And peyote, they have peyote trips too. They bring people from the north to do peyote trips. So yeah, she's always been very acute with managing energy and all of that stuff. and her husband is very wise and very. I think he has weird powers, if you ask me. And their
Wow.
daughter is the one that is a trainee right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I on that same trip, I met uh, a guy who was in training. He was training under this medicine man, and it's the medicine man said, it's sad because not many of the young people are as interested in the native language and the native ways, and because they've been sort of made to think that it wasn't all that cool. They're assimilated, unfortunately, into the white European society that doesn't really uh, honor those types of things, and actually could demonize them for talking about those sort of things, because they would be thought of as demonic or satanic or something like that. Mexico is a largely Catholic country, right?
Yes.
So is there any pushback from the church on what your aunt and uncle are doing there? Or do they kind of leave it
I
alone?
think I think that the church here in Mexico has a lot of followers. You're right, but most of them are terrible sinners. So um, I don't think there is like really too much power that the Catholic Church really has in the country right now. If I were to attribute power to anybody in my country, it would be the cartels, not a
Oh,
church
right.
nor
Yeah.
a religion. So we live in cartel land, especially me, I am Tijuana, so
Yeah.
you might imagine how it is right now. But no, especially in the smaller towns and little magical towns, as they call them, they're very much embedded into the shamanistic traditions there, because they're closer to nature, and
Like,
yeah, that's basically it. So no, they don't get a lot of pushback. Not really.
oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I can imagine that there are some places where they might. Um, so yeah. So how do you navigate? Uh, I mean, of course, here we are over here. We don't really know what's going on. Uh, but you said you're in cartel land. How does that change your life? Does it make you have to act in certain ways or do certain things at certain hours, or what's it like?
Yeah, it depends really, because depends on how uh, complicated the situation is at the moment. Right now, here in Tijuana, um, yeah, there's. I live near one of the main and most violent neighborhoods in the whole city. So we hear gunshots almost daily. There's a lot of news almost daily of people getting shot. But I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I grew up here, and yes, there's news of deaths every day, and a lot of different crimes being committed. But I've never seen anything in 20 something years that I've lived here, because I grew up here, but I was
Yeah,
born in Guadalajara in the south. I guess it
right.
depends on the crowd you're hanging out with. That's what it depends.
I guess
Because if you're,
so.
yeah,
So there's not
you
like a lot of random crime. It's more, you know, gangster against gangster stuff. I
yeah, a lot of
see.
that. There is a lot of when they get like really at war with each other. There are some instances when they burn vehicles in the middle of the street, and you do get to see that sometimes. Like
Right.
last week, there was a shooting, and I guess the people around there, yeah, they were prone to potentially being shot, but it's very rare, really. If you're not hanging around those crowds, you're generally safe. To be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, we always hear, oh, You go to Mexico and you get kidnapped by the cartels. And I guess
If they see
you know,
you, if they see you as a tourist, and you visit the city without knowing dangers that you could get yourself into, then yes, you are prone to get kidnapped or stuff like that. If you come to Tijuana, you better come with a local. They will take you to the
yeah,
best spot, and you'll be safe. That's the
yeah, yeah.
advice.
That's kind of true. A lot of places, you know, you got to
Yeah,
know where the safe part of town is and all that kind of stuff. Or just, you know, sometimes there's an area where you just might want to avoid because something's been going on. So always best to hook up with the locals. Is what I
yeah,
say.
it
But
is.
now I can see how your interest in this developed. I mean, it was almost a natural thing, you know, through your family connections and your interest that you developed. But can you think of? Uh, can you just share? I'm so sorry. That is so stupid. Um, can you share, you know, maybe a case or two that you know really caught your eye? I know you cover a lot of Latin American cases, but also international cases. So take
Yeah.
your pick at what you want to
Okay,
talk about.
so one of the cases that I'm most interested in is the search for human potential, um, which is kind of tied to my leading case, but not directly. I developed a good relationship with a Spanish theoretical physicist called Alex Gomez Marin, and he is studying how we can develop human potential through psychic abilities or psi abilities. And this is something that I've been very interested in for a while. And but I've gotten to study the people who have like PhD level knowledge on this. People like Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove or Dr. Jeffrey Kripal. These are people that I really look up to, and that I think are thinking outside the box when it comes to
Right.
human potential. When I spoke to Danny Sheehan, the lawyer, everybody knows Danny, he spoke to me about this specifically, that he believes that we are on the brink of some sort of evolution as a species. And there's a lot of people that are waking up to the reality that is around us. And I do believe that is real, that is true. I still think that there's a lot of
I
people that
keep
are
hearing
still
it.
asleep. I'm sorry?
Yeah. I said, I keep hearing it from everywhere. You know, many
Yeah.
people are saying that. We've got a show, very new show on KGRA called Human Ascension with Ellie. And that's what she talks about. And I think when you and I were having a chat off the air, I told you I just heard this guy talking about, you know, our human potential and how that's been sort of hidden from us. And I really think that more than UFOs and aliens, I think that's the big secret. I think
Yes, it
that's
is.
because that's more dangerous to them than anything because they lose control. And
Yep.
I think, you know, there are, you know, powers that be, whether they're in governments or just other kind of elite groups, and the church. I think they know about it. I think they're keeping it from us
Yes,
because
I think the same thing.
that would blow everyone's minds. And it's funny because just before you mentioned it, I had just watched a YouTube video, and I call him a little guy because he's so cute, and he's really a sweet little man. And his dog Alfie, he's on YouTube. It's called Telltale Tarot, I think. And anyhow, he was talking about that, about how it had been hidden. Now, let me say this to you to see if it rings any kind of a bell with you. he said that we were on the verge of some event, some revelation that will be undeniable. It won't be anything that people can say, oh, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, maybe that's not, maybe that's the way it is, maybe it's not. He said it will be undeniable, and it has something to do with our potential and who we really are. And he said he keeps thinking it has something to do with something that's going on under the ocean. Does that ring any
Um,
bells?
well, I can tell you the dots that I've connected related to that because I have heard stuff like that, but there are many avenues that we need to look at, right? So one avenue is Chris Bledsoe, the experiencer from North Carolina. Do you know him?
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
he talks about this in his book, UFO of God, that there's going to be an event where instead of, because people keep, doomers especially keep saying that it's going to be the end of times and stuff like that. But no, Chris Bledsoe and also Danny Sheehan, they say that it's going to be a paradigm shift in us. It's not going to
Yes.
be like an event
Please.
that hurts the planet or something like that. That's
Right.
what they're saying. And another avenue is that I don't know if you've noticed, but lately in the news cycle, UFO related, there's a lot of talk about USOs and
Yes.
these. We had because I collaborate with a YouTuber called Christian Harloff, who's also a movie critic, and he had Tim Gallaudet on his show for an interview, and there's a lot of uptick in that, and the supposed hearings that are coming. I don't know if it's going to be this year or after the election. They're saying that they want to talk about USOs. That's going to be the main topic they want to talk about. So, and I keep hearing that if there's going to be an event, it's going to be early 2026. That's what
That's
uh,
like March.
yeah, something like that.
I
So
think that is it, or am I hearing March or am I hearing July?
I heard March as well, though.
March. I think it's March that I keep hearing. You know, that Chris Bledsoe story on if you know the listeners or you are interested in delving into it anymore, Ellie has covered that extensively on Human Ascension, along with another gentleman that is some sort of experiencer, and I wish I could remember his name. I know his middle name is Vien, but I can't remember his full name. But I'll get it for you, and you might want to check him out too. But yeah, and it sounds like you have been working with some people that I'm not that familiar with their stories, so I would love to get that information from you as well. But
Of course.
it's gotta. I feel like there's so much chaos and so much division, or there has been, and I kind of been feeling like it's just the sort of last gasp of the old way of doing things here. And it's like it's struggling, it's in its death spiral. And so we're getting pushback from that side because there's a lot of fear around, people stepping into their own power. And because they would lose out what they're most interested in, which is power and material things. So they're trying to, keep that info away from us so that we don't figure it out on our own. But how do you see that? Do you see it as some sort of a celestial event? Like it seems to be related to when some star aligns with the Great Pyramid of Giza and things like that. Do you think we're going to see something in the sky? Do you think something's going to come out of the ocean? Or do you think it's going to be more like, I've also heard this, like there's going to be a burst of light brighter than the sun And, if you're ready for it, and if you're, ready for the change and ready to ascend and ready for your development, your spiritual development, you'll be fine, but it might really freak out a lot of other people. But how do you see it? Do you have any opinions on what kind of an event?
I'm not sure, really. I've heard so many things. That even though I do believe that there's something going on, I haven't had any experiences with any NHI, or I did see an orb like last year, about a year ago, and I filmed it and everything, but it was really far away. I didn't feel like it was like, could have been anything really. So I haven't felt like I've had an anomalous experience per se, related to UFOs. But the other experiences that I've had have to do with mind and telepathy and stuff like that. So if something were to happen based on the experiences I've had, I guess it would be something mental and some kind of switch that goes on in people.
Wow.
And
now that would
they
be
like start
amazing.
they start realizing, like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I fighting with my neighbor? Why am I hating on people? Why am I sending this negative information to the
Or maybe
ether?
you suddenly like pick up that your neighbor is upset or going through something. They don't have to say it, you just know it. Or they might
Yeah,
say
and you
something
and you go help them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
would
what
be
I think could happen. That's what I think that could happen. As far
to
as
me.
like an event that we see, I hope so. I would like to see something, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it would be nice to see something, but when I think about it, it's like having the switch flipped is the best possible thing. That you
Yeah.
wake up and you're suddenly aware of who you really are, what the meaning of life is, why you're here, and you are in total communication, sympathy, and empathy with the rest of the human race and hopefully the rest of the cosmos.
You know what helped me get there? Psychedelics.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, I don't
And
know if
I
I want
was
to
young.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
of course, at my age, I think I would have been like really a weirdo if I didn't have some experience in that area. Because everybody did. But well, I shouldn't say that because I know my sisters didn't. But, I was the weirdo of the family. But anyhow, yeah, I really wasn't experienced in it. I did try LSD once, and it was really interesting. It was really interesting, and I was married at the time to an abusive guy, and it was really amazing because he started telling me he suddenly realized how horrible that he acted and he just kept apologizing and apologizing. And the longer, the time went and I knew, we were going to be coming to the end of the trip that we were on, I got really upset and I started crying and I said, because you're going to go back to the way you were. He goes, no, I promise I won't. I'll remember. He didn't. He went right back. But for that period of time, he was aware. He had a moment of awareness of what he had been doing that wasn't too cool. I saw some kind of interesting things on the wall and things like that, but it was mostly my experience with him. But I was always scared to do it again. I guess I was a big sissy.
I
But
think that there's a lot of judgment against psychedelics. I see, because I've been studying this. That's the reason my podcast is called Psicoactivo, because the initial
Psychoactive.
thing was to talk about psychedelics, because I went through a very profound experience a decade ago where I nearly died because of a drug overdose, and this near death experience changed something in me that I couldn't explain, and I started like um, getting information in a different way and processing it in a different way. And since then, I stayed away from that world.
Right?
I started working out. I stopped drinking for a while because I do like to drink occasionally. But then I just realized that I kind of think that when you're like on this negative spiral, if you can't get out of it by
Mm,
yourself, you do eventually need some type of assistance. And it could come through yoga, it could come through meditation. In my case, it came through psychedelics. That's
mm.
the way that I realized that I was a little asshat when I was younger. So, and that changed me fundamentally in many ways.
What
And I felt more
what was the
empathetic towards people.
what was the drug that you overdosed on, if you don't mind me asking?
Methamphetamines.
Oh, I was going to say I didn't think it was going to be psychedelics.
No, no,
You
no.
don't hear people. You might hear someone thinking they can fly and jump out of the window if they're not.
No, it was
Yeah.
methamphetamines, and my heart
Oh, that's
was, I felt like it
horrible,
was gonna
horrible,
explode.
oh,
Yeah, it was
horrible
horrible.
drug. Really
My
bad.
mom saved my life, really. I owe everything to her.
Thank God.
So yeah, yeah. I was
God
lucky
for
that
my
she was there.
yes, very, very. Yeah, those hard drugs are just not good at all. Too dangerous. Not worth it. Not worth the risk. But yeah, I didn't think you were talking about ayahuasca or anything like that.
No, no,
You can't
no.
really overdose on that, I don't think. Um, well, you hear a lot of. I'm really into near death experiences. I haven't really had one myself, but I was into a lot of research into that area. It was weird because just before my own daughter died, I had been to a big meeting of near death experiencers. There were about 30 here in LA at it was IANS, the International Association of Near Death Experiencers. And we were all in this big circle, and everybody went around and told their stories about what had happened, what they saw, how wonderful it was, and how beautiful it was, how they were not afraid of anything anymore, especially not death. And then the very next week, unexpectedly lost my daughter. I mean, she was ill, but I wasn't expecting her to die. And I was so grateful that I had been to that meeting and heard all those people saying, I can't wait to go back. It really helped me a lot. It was still horrible, but that was the one thing at the moment that kind of like kept me anchored a little bit. And, I have friends that have had near death experiences, and I know they're not making up stories. And
Yeah, no.
the experiences are profound. And
Yeah.
they come
It's
back, and you are a different person in some
Yep,
way.
yep. And it was really weird because a lot of things happen afterwards, especially with my family, that I managed to mend relationships with most of them, and it was really a really healing experience. It was terrifying when it happened. Everybody was terrified,
Oh my
especially
God.
my mom and my brothers. But after it all happened, and I realized that I no longer had like this addiction, or addictive personality, I was like, I have to seize the moment and just like try to mend my mistakes from the past. And I've I've tried I've tried to do better in general for me and my loved ones, and I think it's working. They would tell you that it is. I still make a lot of mistakes though, but um, I think generally I'm on a positive upward um, road.
If I asked your mom, you know, was there a difference in Pavel before his near death experience and after, what would she say?
Definitely, she
She
wouldn't.
would.
Um,
Did
she
she
wouldn't
say
be.
anything at the time like, wow, you're really doing good? Or, I noticed a change in you. Was it that profound that people were actually talking
Yeah,
about it?
it was kind of immediate, like the change, because at the beginning they didn't think I was being true, because I was like, no, I'm done doing that. I'm done. And I started working out and I started doing other things, went back to my career in journalism. And then a few months went by and my mom was like, you really are done with that. So, because they tried to give me a psychiatrist tried to give me medicine to try to mitigate the addiction. And I couldn't sleep. And I was like, Mom, I promise you, I'm not going to do anything. I just can't take this medicine. I don't need
Mm,
it. I just got to
yeah.
work out and just do my thing. And luckily, she trusted me. There was a moment when we went to wine country right after it happened, where I guess we needed to like let it all out and just say whatever we wanted to each other. And she let it out. She told me some really nasty things that I had coming, to be honest with you. But I think that was very healing for both of us and for everybody, because she
Yeah.
was the one that was hurt the most from that experience. Because not
Always.
only she did she think that she was going to lose her son, she also thought that um, I was lost to addiction for good.
Yeah.
And when that changed and she noticed that it was real, a lot of things changed from her to towards me. So yeah,
Right.
it was pretty quick.
She could trust you. She could trust you. That's what it
Yeah,
was. That's
yeah. She
great.
still she still doesn't trust me in some things, but they're not related to drugs.
Yeah. Well, that's going to
Yeah,
always be true. I hate to tell you.
yeah.
Now, we are down to, the last 8.5 minutes of the show. And I didn't want to let you go without asking you if you can tell me, if you can share anything. For you, what is the most compelling case you've ever looked into, ever worked on, ever heard about?
I
Or,
can tell you quite a bit of things because it's pretty public what's happening. The case has to do with a compatriot of mine. It's a Mexican doctor called Jacobo Greenberg.
mm,
He founded the Mexican Institute of Consciousness in the late 70s, and he worked in many different experiments that had to do with consciousness. He studied Mexican shamans for 2 decades. He wrote about 50 books. He was approached by many three-letter agencies in the US and other groups within the US to work with them, and he always tried to reject them. And when he was doing the most important experiment of his life, he disappeared right in the middle of the experiment. Um, when he was about to travel to India to complete the second part, he never boarded the plane. Then there was some investigation ran by the government from a commander called Clemente Padilla, who was assigned to his case right after the disappearance, and he found evidence that he was tied to the CIA. And that's what I've been investigating. But the most important aspect of this case to me is that his life's work hasn't been acknowledged or recognized by the scientific community. Every time I approach any of these big shot scientists who are dealing with the phenomenon or with consciousness, and I ask them about the doctor, they go like, "No, who's that?" And that enrages me because I do believe that the work he did throughout his life was paradigm shifting. And I guess that I am compelled to keep telling the story and keep talking about his work. And along the way, I am conducting an investigation to see what happened to him. But
Mm,
that's going to be a little bit more tricky because if it was so mysterious the way he disappeared, I'm guessing there's someone who doesn't want him found or doesn't want to
somebody,
know people to know what happened. And when I
yeah,
hit that wall, I'm just gonna stop and I'm just gonna continue uh, shedding light into his work because it's a lot.
right. That is interesting. Yeah. Now, do you get the idea that he voluntarily took himself out of the picture, disappeared because he knew something was happening, or do you think they disappeared him? Do
I
you think
guess
somebody shut him up?
because he has a daughter and she was his life. He was like completely devoted to her, and obviously the wife that he had at the time. And if they did convince him to go willingly, I guess it could have been uh, by threatening or saying something about his daughter. So that's the only way that I
Wow.
see him going willingly. Otherwise, I don't see any other way. To be honest with you.
Did his wife and his daughter have any theories? What did they think happened to him?
So his daughter's mother was his first wife, and in a
Ah,
documentary that I saw about his disappearance, from Spanish director Ida Cuellar, he's now my friend. I have close contact with him. We're working on a second project together. Um, there's evidence that his second wife was involved in his disappearance. The LA Times covered the story in the early 1994, and they came up with the conclusion that she probably killed him. But um, the evidence that Clemente Padilla uh, found that she was potentially an agent that was keeping tabs on him,
do we
and
know where
maybe
she is today?
that's who she is or where she
No,
is.
where she is, yeah, or and who she is, yeah.
She disappeared at around the same time, and there are
Come on
some
now.
phone calls that she made to her mother who lives near here, actually in Rosarito. And she said that when they went to her mother's house to ask her, the mother was like, "No, I haven't seen her in years." But the phone records do have extensive phone calls that lasted 20, 30 minutes daily between her and her mother. And that's as far as the investigation went, because when the president at the time in Mexico found out that Clemente Padilla was investigating the case, he fired him, and they
Who
framed
was the
him
president?
of
Who
Ernesto
was?
Cedillo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huh. Why do you think he did that?
I don't know. Um, I
He was in
guess
the cover up,
I
or
guess
you know,
I guess he had a directive from someone to
yeah.
stop investigating.
Mm,
That would be my
wow.
conclusion.
Yeah. So they just try to scare the crap out of all of us, and then keep the real secret that, it's nothing but our own ascension and our own, human potential that's being hidden. not some big.
So one of the main reasons why I think that they potentially made him disappear is because of some of the work that he was doing at the time had to do with quantum entanglement, but between human minds. He was attempting to prove that it was real. And if he proved that, because, you know, before that, there's a lot of talk of consciousness and of all this etheric kind of talk about quantum physics, nothing really concrete, you know. But this guy was conducting experiments at UNAM that were proving that a lot of this stuff was real. And I guess that's the reason that it probably spooked someone that made them go like, you got to stop that guy because we can't have that right now.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
think that's potentially what could have happened.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. I could talk about this forever, but we're down to the final minute of the show. You know what? I'm so sorry I didn't check, but do you already know what day and time slot you have?
They told me it was a Tuesday in the afternoon.
Tuesday afternoons on GRA in the month of September. Do you have a start date?
Not yet.
Not
We're
yet.
going to talk about it next week.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I can't wait till you're joining us on the station because we're really looking forward to it. And I want to thank you for also jumping in at the last minute and being gracious enough to save me tonight from my canceled guest. So thank you so much. And looking
It is my
forward.
pleasure. It is my pleasure.
I'm going to be checking out Psicoactivo already. So, but I'll definitely check it out when you're on the station as well. So thank you so
very
much.
much.
Take care and take care, everyone. Be nice to each other. Good night.
Bye, everybody.